Yes! I have started One Piece. Finally. There are currently over 1,000 episodes in One Piece. 1,000. Which means somebody at some point looked at this. Yeah, we can get 1,000 episodes of that. And honestly, after watching episode 1, I kind of get it. Because this isn't a story of a guy who knows exactly what he's doing. This is the story of a guy who has absolutely no idea what he's doing. And somehow has more confidence than everybody else on the ship combined. This is Monkey D. Luffy. He wants to become the Pirate King. No crew, no ship, no map, no plan, nothing. And the first appearance we see of him is him sleeping in a barrel. Let's start with the opening. We're introduced to Alvida and her crew. They're attacking the ship. Everybody's panicking. Then out of nowhere, we see this little glasses-wearing, pink-haired kid named Kobe. I was thinking Kobe Bryant. But no, it's just a little kid named Kobe who is terrified of everything. He's been stuck working for Alvida for 2 years, supposedly. And every time she looks in his direction, his soul leaves his body. And then in the middle of all this chaos, there's a barrel. That's the introduction. Not some crazy dramatic entrance, not some mysterious silhouette. Just a guy that wakes up from a nap and starts looking for food. And I love this because it tells us something about the main character, Luffy, before the episode even bothers explaining who he is. He doesn't enter this world with fear. Everybody else is just reacting to what's happening. Luffy is just existing. The pirates are screaming. Kobe obviously is panicking. People are getting attacked. Luffy is basically, first thought, I'm hungry. This becomes one of the most important things about his character in the entire episode. Luffy doesn't seem to spend much time asking, am I supposed to be scared? You know, am I strong enough? What will people think? What if I fail? He just takes action. Look at how he reacts to the pirates. They're ready to fight. Kobe, terrified as usual. And Luffy's response is basically, what's the big idea? Then he breaks their swords. That is insane because something deeper is happening here for me, in my opinion. Everybody else in this episode is trapped inside a story they've already accepted. Kobe thinks I'm weak. The pirates think Alvida is stronger than us. Alvida thinks everybody's below me. They're below you in a way that I don't really want to talk about. Then Luffy walks in and he doesn't accept not one of those rules. That's a superpower in my opinion before we even learn about that he's rubber, which we'll get to later. He doesn't automatically believe in the limitations other people give him. That to me is the freedom of his character. Not I can do whatever I want, but he's talking about something deeper. To me, freedom is the ability to look at the life you've been handed and realize you are still allowed to choose what happens next. Kobe wants something, Luffy wants something. The difference is Luffy does something. Luffy takes action. Kobe doesn't. To me, they're two opposites, but not completely. I feel like they're actually two sides of the same coin. Kobe tells Luffy that he's been forced to work for Alvida for 2 years. He hates it, he's terrified, he wants to join the Marines. He has a dream, but every time he thinks about pursuing it, fear wins. Maybe I can't. What if she catches me? What if I get hurt? What if I fail? Luffy's response is just leave, bro. And then when Kobe says he can't, Luffy just immediately says, you're a wimp. I hate you. Straight up. No overthinking, no nothing. That's the first thing he says. This is not exactly a motivational speech that like David Goggins would give. Luffy accidentally hits the core of Kobe's problem. Kobe isn't lacking the dream, he's lacking the willingness to act on it. And that's the important distinction. A dream that only exists inside your head isn't a dream, it's fantasy. The moment you actually decide, I'm gonna do this, that's when your life changes. Not because success is guaranteed, but because you finally have chosen a direction. Kobe then asks Luffy why he wants to even become the Pirate King. Luffy doesn't even give him a grand explanation. He doesn't say, I know I'm the strongest. He doesn't even care whether he actually succeeds. He just says essentially, I'm gonna do it because I want to. And then he says something that I think completely defines his character so far. If he dies fighting for that dream, he's okay with it. And this is where I think One Piece gets something about dreams that a lot of stories and even people get wrong. Normally when people talk about ambition, they talk about the destination. I want to become rich. I want to become famous. I want to become the strongest. But I think Luffy's mindset is different. He's not saying, I will be happy once I become the Pirate King. He's saying the pursuit itself is worth living for. That's a completely different philosophy for me. Because if your happiness is permanently waiting at the end of some finish line, you're going to spend your entire life running toward a place that you aren't currently standing. Luffy doesn't do that. He's already enjoying the journey. He gets excited about food. He laughs. He gets punched in the head in the episode. He gets thrown around. He meets some random kid named Kobe. He isn't waiting for life to begin. He's living it right now. And this is probably my favorite thing about him in this episode. Luffy is ridiculously carefree. Not because he doesn't have problems. He has a lot of problems in the episode he has to deal with. His boat gets destroyed by a whirlpool, he's surrounded by pirates, he doesn't have a crew, no proper ship, and he still acts like he's having the greatest day of his life. He finds food, best day ever. Someone tells him becoming Pirate King is impossible, whatever. He gets hit in the head, whatever. He gets attacked, whatever. And then Alvida shows up. The first thing this guy says is, straight up. Then Kobe says it after him, because Luffy has somehow given this terrified kid enough courage to stand up and basically tell Alvida, hey, you're kind of ugly. I can't stress how insane this is. 5 minutes ago, Kobe was shaking because Alvida looked at him. Now he's standing in front of the most terrifying person in his life and insulting her appearance. Luffy didn't give Kobe courage by telling him you're stronger than Alvida. He gave him courage by making him realize you're allowed to choose. And that's why I think Luffy's already living according to his will. Luffy says, I'll become the Pirate King. Kobe says, I'll join the Marines. Luffy doesn't know if he'll succeed. Kobe doesn't know if he'll succeed. The difference is that Luffy has already accepted the possibility of failure. Kobe hasn't. Once Kobe realizes, I'm willing to risk something for my dream, everything changes. That's what Luffy gives people, in my opinion. So far, I feel like he doesn't give people answers, instructions, not some magical formula for success. He gives them permission to stop living in fear. And I think that's what Luffy's definition of freedom is. Not because it's the freedom of consequences, but freedom is accepting that consequences exist and choosing anyway. I don't really want to talk about her, but it's really interesting what she represents. Alvida, the damn melted ice cream. She's the complete opposite. Her entire world is built around control. Do what I say. Don't disobey me. I'm the strongest. I'm the most beautiful. Her power comes from everybody else believing she has power. Luffy walks in and says, nah, I don't want to participate in whatever you got going on. That's why it's so funny to me, because Alvida is fighting this huge battle for control. Luffy's wondering, what is she even talking about? She hits him with a big iron club, and it bounces off his head because he's rubber. Symbolically, it's even funnier. She's trying to impose her reality onto him. And Luffy, he just doesn't accept it. That's it. Your rules don't apply to me. And here's a tiny detail that I think a lot of people missed. Luffy begins the episode inside a barrel. He literally has no idea what's going on. He's floating in the middle of an ocean. He doesn't even have a real ship. And the first thing he tells Kobe is, I'm gonna become the Pirate King. That's the funniest possible image of ambition. Usually when somebody has a huge dream, we imagine them standing on the top of a mountain. Luffy starts at the bottom of the barrel, literally. No crew, no ships, no plan, just a dream. And I think that's the point. You don't need to have everything figured out before you start something. You just need to start. Sometimes you just have to move before you can see where the road goes. And Luffy is the perfect embodiment of that. And here's my prediction for this guy named Kobe. I think Kobe is going to become extremely important to the Marines because he's basically parallel to Luffy in terms, he's like the main character version of Luffy if he was a Marine. Luffy wants to become Pirate King, Kobe wants to become a Marine. Or really, probably the king of the Marines. They're entering completely different worlds, but both of them are trying to escape a life that was chosen for them. If Luffy represents freedom outside of this Marine system, Kobe could represent changing the system from inside. Now obviously I could be completely wrong and he disappears after the next episode. Maybe he gets eaten by a fish. I don't know, but that's my prediction so far. So after episode 1, the real question, what do I think of One Piece? Since I'm new, honestly, I really like the meaning. The whole thing we've been talking about this episode, I feel like a lot of people are missing the deeper meanings. I think its greatest strength is that it doesn't tell you what freedom means. It shows you. Kobe's afraid. Luffy isn't. Kobe has a dream. Luffy acts on his. Kobe believes his circumstances determine his future. Luffy believes his decisions determine his future. And the beautiful part is Luffy isn't smarter. He's not even necessarily more prepared. He's just willing to live according to what he believes. That's something I've been thinking about a lot. That's the whole goal of this channel, right? I want to build a group of people that adopt this philosophy of going for what they want. That's the message of this channel. It's very easy to spend your life waiting until you're ready, waiting until you're confident, waiting until you know exactly what you're doing. But you'll never have that certainty. Nobody does. The same way that I'm starting One Piece right now, I'm like, am I really gonna have to watch all the 1,000 episodes? Sometimes you just gotta make that jump. That's the price of actually living, yo. The goal isn't to construct a life where nothing can go wrong. It's to construct a life where even when things go wrong, you still chose it. That's Luffy. He doesn't know if he'll become this Pirate King. He doesn't know what this grand line is gonna look like. He doesn't even know who he's gonna meet. He just knows, hey, this is what I want, and I'm gonna go for it. Just beauty and simplicity, y'all. So far, I expected One Piece to be about fights, treasure, adventure. It's definitely about that. It's got pirates, very beautiful pirates. But underneath all that insanity, The episode is about something incredibly simple. What do you do when the life you're living isn't the life you want? Kobe's answer at first is, I don't know. Luffy's answer is, then change it. And that's maybe why Luffy's so happy, he's so joyful. Not because life is perfect, but because he isn't constantly trying to make reality match his expectations. He's just there, eating, laughing, dreaming, fighting, moving, living. Maybe that's what life is about, yo. Maybe that's freedom. So those are my thoughts on One Piece Episode 1 so far. We got a rubber pirate, a terrified future marine, and a barrel. Honestly, not a bad start. And apparently this guy thinks he's going to become the Pirate King. I wish you the best, buddy. Yo, I have absolutely no idea what I'm getting myself into. Pray for me.